Tony D and Little Joan here with a screenwriter's rant for The Mean One, a movie that I'm against. I'm against all these movies because you're taking something nice and Christmassy and turning it into a horror movie. Are you out of your freaking mind? Let's take a look at it. The Mean One official trailer, Grinch horror parody 2022. Smash like and subscribe. Thank you for smash liking and subscribing. Check out my books, links in the description. Comedy horror in South Jersey, it's the Pineys. Books 1 through 10 available at Amazon.com. Don't forget, Kindle Unlimited is free. It's one thing if you make this a comedy. I guess it's kind of a comedy, but it's also a bloody mess. And I don't know, it's stupid. So that it's a parody of the Grinch. It takes place in Newville, so it's supposed to be Whoville. And the premise is the Grinch didn't just pat the little girl on the head and send her on her way. Her mother came down and the Grinch killed her, killed the mother, and then she wants revenge. She comes back to town and her father's killed, and she knows the Christmas killer is out there, and it's the Grinch. It's obviously the Grinch. And then there's lines in the movie that are from the song and from the Grinch show. There's the Grinch there. They call him the Christmas killer. And then she goes after him. She trains, and then she has a bunch of guns that are painted like candy canes. Here's the Grinch. And then she's going to murder the Grinch. So it's called The Mean One, because you're a mean one, Mr. Grinch. In theaters, I don't know how you got a theater release on this, December 9th. A Christmas horror parody. I mean, seriously? Written by Flip and Finn Cobbler, directed by Steve Lamorte. Okay. I didn't recognize any of the cast, so even though YouTube is blocking it, I wouldn't expect to. Are these the same? Is this the same guys who did the Pooh thing? I got the IMDb opened here. Let's see. Let's see what Steven has directed in the past. He's directed. No, he wasn't working on that Pooh movie. But yeah, I just don't know why they're doing this. I really don't. Here's the cast. Yeah, I don't recognize any of the cast. It was Cindy Who. So I guess her name is Cindy New because it's Newville. Yeah, this reminds me of the Banana Splits movie, where they take a beloved children's icon and turn it into a horror movie. Yeah, no, I'm not down with this. Because it's not funny. I mean, it could be funny if you made it a comedy, but this is clearly not a comedy. This is a bunch of... It's almost like horror porn in a lot of ways. Because it's just so... I think it's poorly made. I do. You know? Like if it was a comedy sketch, okay, totally acceptable. I used to do these all back in the day. Back in the day, we did my college comedy show did a sketch. It was The Nightmare on Sesame Street. So it was Ernie as Freddy Krueger, because he had the same sort of striped jacket, and he kills Bert with the glove. All right. Nightmare on Sesame Street, rated R. But it was like 30 seconds. This is a whole movie? Are you out of your mind? Yeah, am I going to go see this? No, I'm not going to go see this. If it was a comedy, maybe. I mean, it's kind of got some comedic elements to it. Horror is sort of close to comedy, but, you know, it's got a lot of scenes of, oh, I'm going to get you. Yeah, I'm going to kill the Christmas killer. I'll show him. But it's not really coming across as funny because, I don't know, it's just not funny. I mean, they're doing lines from the movie, but from the original cartoon in the movie, as sort of a parody, but it's not funny because they're treating it seriously. So I guess there's sort of a meta quality to this. I guess people are going to laugh at this, but it seems weird to laugh at horrible murders, right? I mean, this is the same thing to me as the Banana Splits horror movie and the Winnie the Pooh thing. It's like, why is this happening? Feels like, and I've heard this discussed on various podcasts, there was an idea to unravel and destroy all heroes, all stories. And the idea being that you would not give anybody a mental retreat from the incessant politicization of the culture and, the wokeness, essentially. Could this be part of that? Feels like it. Although it's not particularly, I don't think anybody's, going to be beat. Here's the description. They're beating down the doors to go see this thing. The Grinch steals a lot more than Christmas, this forthcoming horror parody sequel to the classic Dr. Seuss Yuletide tale. Terrifier 2's David Howard Thornton plays the titular Green Meanie, while Christy Martin plays an adult Cindy You-Know-Who, out for revenge 20 years later. No. It's just stupid, dude. You're desecrating a classic and you're not even making it funny. Like, you could do a funny horror. Maybe that would work. I don't think there's enough material there to do enough comedy, but you could maybe make it work. If you were going to go to comedic route. Like, the comedic route, you have to go big. You have to have comedians. You have to have funny lines. And then you might end with this montage of violence at the end, because the Grinch is so ridiculous. But to do it this way, like a horror parody, it doesn't make any sense. It makes about as much sense as that Pooh movie, I guess. And the Banana Splits movie, where they were animatronic robots that go berserk and start murdering people. I mean, it doesn't take that much to make a horror movie. And there is so much material out there. I mean, so much for horror movies. Besides actual crimes that could be, changed. And, Psycho. You got Psycho, which was Ed Gein. You got Silence of the Lamb, partly based on Ed Gein. There was a third one, the Lotus Eaters. I just watched the Lotus Eaters. They were talking about it. I forget. There's plenty of horrible nightmares out there you can base for a horror movie. There's fictional ones too. There's tons of fictional ones, old ones too. But this is not something people want. I don't think. People still have pleasant memories of the Grinch. Whether they watch the Jim Carrey version or the cartoon, the original cartoon, which is still a classic. I don't think you needed this. It just feels very unnecessary, exploitive of an IP. It's like they figured out, we can exploit the IP if we say it's a horror parody, and we don't do certain things. Dr. Seuss is dead. He can't sue us, I guess. Is that the thinking? It's just, it's not so much I'm mad about this. I'm embarrassed for the filmmakers who made this. I'm embarrassed for you. It's just lazy, You wasted all this time making this. All the things you could have made. An original monster of some kind, This is what you made. Yeah. So first act, they show you the Grinch 20 years ago, patting little Cindy on the head and sending her to bed with a cup of milk or whatever, just like in the original cartoon. And then they say, well, that's not the way it really happened. What really happened is the mother came down and the Grinch killed her, and then Now it's 20 years later, and for whatever reason, Cindy's come back to town, and you know, the moment she comes back to town, of course, for some reason, she's decided to come back to town the one time a year where her mother was brutally murdered, and she starts having nightmares. Second act, the Grinch is back, although I don't think they can call him the Grinch in the movie. I think they just call him the Christmas killer. And the Grinch comes back, kills her dad, and then she's pushed over the edge. She trains and she goes after the Grinch. In the third act, she fights the Grinch with a candy cane gun, saying various lines from the classic cartoon in a grim voice that's meant to be, I guess, funny in a weird, ironic way. And then in the end, she kills the Grinch. Like, he explodes. And we're supposed to feel good about that. It's not a movie you're going to walk out of feeling good, even if she wins, right? So you're just be like, what did I just watch? what am I doing with my life? Why did I come to this theater? I think maybe if any good comes out of this movie, it'll be that. People come out of the theater like, what am I doing here? I really got to go home and think about my life. I just paid real money to see the mean one. Yeah. Yeah, the other thing to consider is who's the audience, right? So if you're a fan of the original cartoon like I am, here she is training. So you're a fan of the original cartoon, you're kind of too old for this kind of stupid movie. You're not going to watch this. So then you got people who, they were raised on the old movie. The next generation. It was on TV for many years. Every year it was on. And for like 30 years. So there are generations who remember the cartoon. And then you finally had the live action version, the Jim Carrey one. I forget when that came out. I want to say the 90s, but it was probably the 2000s. Unnecessary as well, but at least it was in the spirit of the original. I believe The Simpsons have done a parody. A few other cartoons probably have too. So it's still kind of known, but you're talking about who would go see this movie. Well, horror movies tend to be aimed at teenagers and young peoples because they go out on dates and you bring your date to a horror movie. And then your date jumps and hides in your arm and you're like, yeah. I don't know if they're, let's say, so maybe they're just old enough to appreciate this, but if they're old enough to remember Jim Carrey even and the cartoon, they're probably too old for a horror movie. You know what I mean? Like, so if you were a kid, let's see, when did the Jim Carrey movie come out? Let's check that. 2000. All right, that's 22 years ago. So, if you saw that, and it was a kids movie, so let's saw it when you saw it when you were 10. All right, you're 10 years old. You go see How the Grinch Stole Christmas with Jim Carrey, and there he is. That's the evil one, the mean one. So you're 10. Now you're 32. You're not going to go see this movie. 32-year-olds aren't going to see this movie. It's not aimed at them. I mean, it kind of is, but it would be like they would probably have the same reaction I'm having. They're kind of disgusted. Like, I don't want to see that. I don't want to take my kids to it. So, yeah, who is this for? Teenagers, you're talking 15, let's say 15 to 21. It's about the range you get for horror movies. Maybe you go 25, let's say. Maybe they saw Jim Carrey, right? So 22 years, yeah, maybe they saw Jim Carrey on DVD. Yeah, if their parents were really into it, maybe they saw the cartoon. their parents were into it or grandparents. Again, is that something like, oh yeah, I saw the Grinch when I was a kid. They have a happy memory of that. Why would they go see this? The only thing I can think of is this is for kids who have never seen the Grinch, and they want to put this Grinch in their heads. The idea being, yeah, this is the Grinch. So when they hear about the old movies, they go, oh yeah, I don't like the Grinch. He's mean. He kills people. Like, no, he doesn't. He's mean, but he's not that mean. So I don't know. This is a weird movie. Again, the Banana Splits was a weird one too, because I mean you have to be like in your 50s to even know who the hell they are. It's not like they were remade like the Jim Carrey movie. And Winnie the Pooh, kind of the same, but also kind of a classic. So are you just going to ruin more classics like this? Just take, I don't know, Little Women. They're back with a vengeance. What other classics can you ruin? Have to be something like for kids. I guess, I mean, they've already sort of done it through the Grimm fairy tales, but at least the Grimm fairy tales had Grimm in its name. I mean, they were meant to be a little scary. Are you just so devoid of ideas, Hollywood? This is what you're doing now? You're just going to go, I don't know, are you going to do like a Charlie Brown movie where Charlie Brown's a serial killer? Who would watch that? Like a Charlie Brown Christmas parody. And there's a Violent Night, the new action Santa Claus movie with David Harbour. It's not quite that bad because Santa is the hero, but it's bizarre to me. This whole movie's bizarre, and I'm against it. I'm against this movie. I don't like it. I won't go see it. I don't want to support it in any way. So here I am complaining about it. So there. And that's it for me, Tony D, and Little Joan. Check us out on Odysee, Bitchute, and Rumble for our more bass takes. Thanks for coming out to the Cherry Hill Public Library for my talk. Appreciate it. People bought books. Next thing is a podcast on Thursday. I'm going to be on OBG 70s podcast. I forget the name of it, but I got a couple of days to go relearn it and tell you about it. I got to go. We'll see you tomorrow.